We copy you down, Eagle. Okay, everybody, T1. Stand by for T1. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
This piece was a smash hit from the moment it was born. Very few new pieces have had such a warm reception, and I think it horrified Holst because he thought there was some wonderful music in it and he thought there were things he could have done much better. He was simply not expecting it to be such a success. I've only ever played it with British orchestras, I realise, and I did it a lot, as everybody does. It's a very, very popular piece in all the English-speaking countries and in Scandinavia, and here it's very little known. Sir Adrian Boult, as a very young man, conducted the first performance in 1918, told me what it was like, told me he could remember hearing the violins desperately practicing Mercury as he walked on stage even, just trying to find a fingering. Coming back to it after a period of 20 years, having not conducted it, I'm more and more impressed and moved by the piece. Also, this feeling that it's such a typical wartime piece, both in the First World War and the Second World War. Composers reacted in a very strange way, which psychologically is very understandable. Mars, like The Rite of Spring, was written before the outbreak of war. Venus to do with peace, Mercury to do with escape, Jupiter to do with the idea of this mythical fairy tale England that maybe never existed. These were all written as the war began. Saturn, which is to do with old age and death. Uranus, which is to do this idea of the magician who simply makes a mess of everything, who is clumsy, but somehow can create a nuclear explosion. In other words, the cock-up theory of history. And Neptune, what is left, which is this endless beyond. It's a very European piece. What is English about it, which is Jupiter, is very, very distinctly in inverted commas. It's like a nostalgic look back at an England that never really existed. It was the England of cricket fields and warm beer and bad cooking. Fascinatingly, Colin Matthews was asked to write Pluto just at the turn of the new century, and he's done, in my mind, a simply staggering job of putting Holst's harmonies and gestures together with his type of music, and it's glittering and gorgeous and somehow works. None of us had any idea how could a composer follow Neptune that dies out, and he's managed to make it work. The idea for the asteroids came to me almost immediately when they said, would you like to record the planets? And my immediate thought was, yes, I would if I can commission something that goes with it. Kaia Saariaho's piece, Tutatis, is apparently structurally built up on the extraordinary dimensions and way that the asteroid Tutatis moves, but in fact what it is a very mysterious gate or astronomical garden through which one walks, and it's as though it opens out the world to the other three pieces.
You know the story of Osiris. He was killed by his brother Set and torn in pieces, and his wife then recollected all these pieces, put them together, and by swaying her huge wings she reanimated him.
I grew up in a religious family, and so part of it is there's an element of fear. I was always fearing the second coming because it's sort of part of Pentecostal church which I was in at the time, and so the idea that the world could be, the Armageddon would happen and the world would be destroyed, and so this idea of an asteroid hitting the Earth at any second, any moment, really appealed to me because it was sort of really part of my youth. In my childhood. So this really was the starting point of the piece.
Well, when I was first approached with this commission, I was actually toying with the idea of approaching it from the aspect of sci-fi, being the only one of the four of us that came from the New World. I kind of thought, well, it's also a fascinating aspect of mankind's fascination with space is the whole aspect of science fiction. And then I happened across this one CD of sound effects that had this recording, about 1.5 minutes long, of among the final conversations between this cosmonaut Komarov and ground control. And it was absolutely chilling, actually, and really got me, totally fascinated. And I thought, this is the piece. This is what I want to write about.
Well, first of all, it is one of the greatest orchestras in the world, taking one of the central pieces of the English repertoire and putting with it an extraordinary variety of many-hued new music. It is 5 composers paying homage to the idea of the planets. It's a whole new journey. It's the idea also of how 4 contemporary composers react with each other, coming from very different places. And basically it is a look at what is beyond the earth. What can music make of what is out there? And we are very satisfied and thrilled to be presenting it.